You're nothing but a leech, Nia. Owen Brantley's voice sliced through the cramped office of Nia Okoro's flower shop in Miami, his eyes blazing with contempt. He loomed over her, suit crisp, Rolex glinting, as Nia's fingers tightened around a bouquet of roses, thorns pricking her skin. Blood beaded, but her face stayed stone cold. Owen sneered. I took your pathetic savings, 50 grand, and turned it into millions. You're stuck arranging weeds. His words landed like fists, each one aimed to crush her. Nia's jaw clenched, teeth grinding, as he waved a gold-embossed wedding invitation. Come watch me marry Elise Davenport. See what success looks like. The jab was deliberate, rooted in his disdain for her small-time dreams. He drained their joint account, money from her grandmother's estate, to fund his real estate empire, then dumped her, claiming she held him back. Now he flaunted his engagement to an heiress, twisting the knife in public. A local magazine quoted him, Nia lacked ambition, I needed a real partner. Customers in the shop froze, eyes darting as Nia's chest heaved, her breath sharp. Owen's assistant smirked, tossing the invitation onto the counter like trash. Show up or don't, you're irrelevant. Nia's fingers crushed a rose stem, petals scattering like her shattered pride. Owen turned, his laughter echoing as he strode out, leaving the air heavy with betrayal. Nia's eyes burned, not with tears, but with a fire that promised retribution. The invitation lay there, a challenge she wouldn't ignore. Nia Okoro stood frozen in her flower shop, the gold-embossed wedding invitation burning in her grip. Petals littered the floor, remnants of the rose she'd crushed under Owen's taunts. Her chest tightened, each breath a blade, but her eyes blazed with defiance. She wouldn't crumble. Not here, not now. You'll see me rise, she hissed, her voice low, a vow carved in steel. Customers lingered, their whispers a hum of pity, but Nia's spine straightened, her jaw locked. She slammed the invitation onto the counter, its edges slicing her fingertip. Blood smeared the paper, a silent oath. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling, and dialed her best friend Lena. He wants me at his wedding to gloat, Nia spat, her words sharp as thorns. I'm going, not to beg, but to show him who I am. Lena's voice crackled through, urging caution, but Nia cut her off. No, he doesn't get to bury me. Her gaze fell on a sketch of her dream gown, silver white, off-shoulder, curve-hugging, high-slit, a vision of sensual elegance. She'd wear it, not for Owen, but for herself. Nia stormed to the back room, yanking open a box of fabric swatches. Her hands moved with purpose, stitching her resolve into every thought of that dress. She'd walk into that wedding, head high, a queen reclaiming her throne. The shop's bell chimed unnoticed as Nia's heart pounded, her pulse a war drum. Owen's words, pathetic, irrelevant, echoed, but she crushed them with a single thought. I'm enough. Her lips curved, not a smile, but a predator's grin. She'd face him, not as the woman he discarded, but as the fire he couldn't extinguish. The invitation sat on the counter, a gauntlet she'd picked up. Owen Brantley's polished loafers clicked against the marble floor of his Miami penthouse office, his smirk fading as he stared at his laptop screen. An email from a former colleague, tagged urgent, burned into his eyes. Your Bayside project. Nia's idea. Check the attached proposal. His fingers froze on the mouse. The attached file, dated 3 years ago, outlined Nia Okoro's vision for the luxury condos that skyrocketed his career. Her name was scrawled in the margins, her handwriting unmistakable. Owen's throat tightened, his pulse hammering. No way, he muttered, slamming the laptop shut. But the truth clawed at him. He'd used her $50,000 savings, her grandmother's legacy, to fund that project, claiming it as his own. His chest heaved, a flicker of guilt sparking, but he crushed it, jaw clenched. He poured a whiskey, the glass trembling in his grip. Then another email pinged. It was a bank statement, flagged by an old accountant friend, showing the $50,000 transfer to a charity fund run by his sister, Claudia Brantley. The memo read, discretionary. Owen's eyes narrowed. Why would Claudia need Nia's money, His fingers hovered over his phone, itching to call her. But he stopped. "She's hiding something," he hissed, his voice ablaze in the silence. He tossed the phone onto the desk, its clatter echoing. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Owen paced, his polished facade cracking as Nia's words, "You'll see me rise," echoed in his skull. He scoffed, trying to bury the unease, but his hands shook. The wedding was days away, and Nia's shadow loomed larger than he'd expected. He glanced at the bank statement again, the numbers a silent accusation. Something was off, and it wasn't just his betrayal. Claudia's name glared from the screen, a mystery he couldn't ignore. "You can't hide from me, Nia." Owen Brantley's voice roared as he shoved open the glass door of Nia Okoro's flower shop in Miami. His face twisted with a mix of guilt and fury. His tie hung loose, sweat beading on his brow, as customers flinched, their hands clutching bouquets. Nia stood behind the counter, pruning shears in hand, her jaw locked tight, eyes blazing like embers. "Get out!" she snapped, her voice a whip. But Owen charged forward, slamming his palms on the counter. "I messed up, okay? I shouldn't have taken your money." His words stumbled, half sincere, half defensive. But Nia's grip on the shears tightened, her knuckles whitening. "You stole my grandmother's legacy," she hissed, cutting him off. "You don't get to waltz in here and play sorry." Owen's eyes darted, his breath ragged. The email about Nia's Bayside project idea and the mysterious $50,000 transfer to his sister Claudia's charity fund gnawed at him. He'd spent the night digging through old files, finding Nia's handwritten notes on his biggest deal. His stomach churned, but pride choked his apology. "I'm trying to fix this," he barked, interrupting her again. Nia's lips curled, a bitter smirk. "Fix it? You humiliated me in front of Miami." A customer gasped, but Nia's focus stayed razor sharp. She tossed the shears down, the metal clanging, and leaned forward, her voice low, lethal. "You invited me to your wedding to rub it in. I'm coming, Owen. Not for you. For me." Owen flinched, his hands shaking as he backed away. A regular customer, Mrs. Torres, piped up. "Nia's flowers light up this city. You're the fool, Mr. Big Shot." The crowd murmured, their support a blade in Owen's gut. He stormed out, his phone buzzing with a text from Claudia. "Keep her quiet." His pulse raced, suspicion flaring. Why was Claudia so nervous? He drove to her office, determined to confront her, but Nia's words, "for me," burned in his mind. He'd underestimated her, and now she was a storm he couldn't control. Nia watched him leave, her chest heaving, her fingers tracing the invitation on the counter. She grabbed her sketchbook, flipping to her gown design. Silver white, curve-hugging, high slit, a weapon of elegance. Her heart pounded, a war drum, as she dialed her tailor. "Make it unforgettable," she ordered, her voice steel. Owen's guilt was his problem. Her vengeance was hers. She'd walk into that wedding, not as his victim, but as a queen. The shop buzzed with customers, their chatter a chorus of admiration. But Nia's eyes stayed fixed on the invitation, its gold edges gleaming like a challenge. She wasn't just going to show up. She'd burn the place down with her presence. Owen, meanwhile, sped through Miami's streets, his hands gripping the wheel, Claudia's text replaying in his head. He pulled up to her charity's headquarters, his jaw clenched. "What are you hiding, Claudia?" he muttered, slamming the car door. The truth was slipping through his fingers, and Nia was no longer the woman he could dismiss. Her fire was rising, and he was starting to feel the heat. "You're stronger than his lies," Lena's voice cut through the hum of Nia Okoro's flower shop, her words a lifeline as Nia's hands wove lilies into a bouquet, her fingers trembling with rage. Owen's confrontation still burned, his half-assed apology, his smug invitation to his wedding. Nia's jaw clenched, her teeth grinding, but she forced a smile for the kids crowded around her workbench. "Like this," she said, her voice steady, guiding a girl's small hands to tuck a rose into a centerpiece. The children from a local shelter beamed, their laughter a shield against her pain. Nia's shop was a haven, its shelves bursting with vibrant blooms she'd crafted into art. She gifted these kids free lessons, pouring her heart into their joy. Her chest tightened, Owen's words, pathetic, irrelevant, clawing at her, but she shoved them down. A man entered, his tailored suit sharp, eyes warm. Vincent Hargrove, a venture capitalist, held a business card, his gaze locking on Nia's deft hands. "These are stunning," he said, nodding at a floral arch. "You're a visionary." Nia's lips twitched, a spark of pride flaring. She brushed her straight, sleek hair back, her pulse quickening. "Just doing what I love," she replied, her voice firm but soft. Vincent lingered, asking about her dreams. "A chain of shops," Nia admitted, her eyes blazing with ambition. "To share beauty with everyone." He handed her his card, his smile genuine. "Let's talk. I invest in visionaries." The kids cheered as Nia finished their bouquet, her heart pounding, a war drum of hope. She glanced at the wedding invitation on the counter, its gold edges a taunt. Owen thought he'd broken her, but Vincent saw her fire. She'd wear that silver-white gown, step out of a Maybach convertible, and make him choke on his arrogance. The kids' laughter echoed as she tucked Vincent's card into her pocket, her resolve a blade sharpened for battle. "I'm sorry, Nia, I was wrong." Owen Brantley's voice cracked as he stood in the dimly lit Miami cafe, his hands clenched, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Nia Okoro sat across from him, her posture rigid, fingers gripping a coffee mug so tightly her knuckles paled. Her sleek, straight hair framed her face, a mask of cold resolve. Owen's apology reeked of desperation, not remorse. "You stole my money, my dreams," Nia cut in, her words slicing like a blade. "You don't get to just say sorry." Owen leaned forward, his tie askew, voice rising. "I'm trying to make this right," he snapped, cutting her off. Nia's eyes flared, her jaw locked, but she held her ground. "Right? You invited me to your wedding to gloat." Her voice was low, venomous, each syllable a dart. Owen flinched, his hands shaking, the bank statement from Claudia's charity fund burning in his pocket. He slid a folded letter across the table, his fingers trembling. "I found this," he muttered. "I didn't know." Nia's pulse hammered as she snatched the letter, her eyes scanning the faded ink. It was from Claudia Brantley, Owen's sister, dated 3 years ago, instructing him to transfer Nia's $50,000 to her charity fund to cover discrepancies. Nia's breath caught, her nails digging into her palm. "You knew," she hissed, her voice a whip. "You let her bury my future." Owen opened his mouth, but Nia slammed the letter down, the table rattling. "You want forgiveness? Prove it. Admit everything at your wedding, in front of everyone." Owen's face paled, his throat bobbing. "Nia, I can't." "Then we're done," she snapped, standing, her chair scraping the floor. The cafe's patrons stared, their whispers abuzz, but Nia's gaze was steel. She stormed out, the letter clutched in her hand, her heart pounding like a war drum. Owen slumped, his fingers raking through his hair, Claudia's name a curse on his lips. Why had she needed Nia's money? His phone buzzed. Another text from Claudia. "Don't let her ruin us." His stomach twisted, suspicion clawing deeper. Nia, outside, leaned against the cafe wall, her chest heaving, the letter a ticking bomb. She dialed Vincent Hargrove, her voice steady despite the fire in her veins. "I found something," she said, her words sharp. "Claudia's involved." Vincent's voice was calm, a lifeline. "Bring it to me. We'll dig deeper." Nia's lips curved, not a smile, but a predator's grin. She slipped the letter into her purse, her mind racing. Owen thought he could control her with a weak apology, but he'd unleashed a storm. She'd walk into that wedding, her silver-white gown blazing, stepping from a Maybach convertible with Vincent at her side. The letter was her weapon, Claudia its target. Nia's heels clicked on the pavement, each step a vow to burn Owen's world to ash. Back in the cafe, Owen stared at the empty chair, his hands shaking, the weight of Nia's demand crushing him. He'd underestimated her, and now Claudia's secrets were pulling him under. The wedding loomed, a stage for Nia's reckoning, and he was no longer the director. "Keep that woman away, or we're done." Claudia Brantley's voice hissed like a snake, her manicured nails digging into the armrest of her leather chair in the sleek Miami office of her charity foundation. Her eyes, cold and calculating, locked on her brother Owen, whose face paled, sweat beading on his brow. The letter Nia Okoro found, Claudia's order to transfer Nia's $50,000 to cover discrepancies, burned in his pocket, a ticking bomb. Owen's hands shook, his voice low. She's coming to the wedding, Claudia. She knows. Claudia's lips curled into a sneer, her heels clicking as she rose, towering over him. Knows what? Your pathetic ex can't touch me. Her words dripped venom, slicing through Owen's crumbling confidence. He opened his mouth, but she cut him off, her finger jabbing the air. You let her get that letter. You're weak. Owen's jaw clenched, his fists balling. I didn't know you used her money to hide your mess, he snapped. But Claudia's laugh was sharp, a blade. You think I built this empire by playing fair? She leaned in, her breath hot, eyes glinting with malice. Nia's a nobody. I'll bury her if she talks. Owen's stomach twisted, his pulse hammering as Claudia's true colors bled through. She wasn't just covering discrepancies. She was laundering money through her charity, using Nia's savings as a drop in a much larger scheme. Her hostility toward Nia wasn't personal, it was survival. Claudia grabbed her phone, barking orders to an assistant. Watch Nia Okoro. She steps out of line. Make it hurt. Owen flinched, his throat tight. You can't. I can, Claudia spat, cutting him off again. And you'll keep quiet, or you're next. She turned, her silhouette a shadow of power, leaving Owen frozen, his hands trembling. He'd thought Nia was the threat, but Claudia's claws were sharper. The letter in his pocket felt heavier, a key to a truth he couldn't unsee. Claudia's assistant slipped out, already tailing Nia's flower shop, while Owen stood, his breath ragged, realizing he'd unleashed a monster. Nia's vow, prove it, echoed in his skull, a warning he'd ignored. Now Claudia's scheme loomed larger than his betrayal, and Nia was walking into a viper's nest. The wedding was 2 days away, and Claudia's threat hung like a guillotine. Owen gripped the letter, his knuckles white, knowing he'd have to choose a side soon. You're playing with fire, Nia. Vincent Hargrove's voice sliced through the hum of his Miami penthouse office, his eyes sharp as he leaned over a stack of documents. Nia Okoro's stolen letter from Claudia Brantley glaring under the desk lamp. Nia's fingers gripped the edge of his desk, her knuckles whitening, her sleek, straight hair falling like a curtain as she leaned in, her jaw locked. I'm done hiding, she snapped, her voice a blade cutting through the tension. Claudia's letter, ordering Owen to funnel Nia's $50,000 into her charity to cover discrepancies, was a grenade, and Nia was ready to pull the pin. Her pulse hammered, Owen's betrayal and Claudia's venom fueling her fire. Vincent's hands shot up, silencing her. We need proof, not just anger. His tone was steel, but his eyes held a flicker of admiration. Nia's chest heaved, her nails digging into the wood. She'd trusted Vincent since he saw her potential at the flower shop, and now he was her anchor in this storm. That letter's a start, she said, her words sharp. Claudia's dirty, and Owen's her puppet. Vincent nodded, his fingers flying across his laptop, pulling up encrypted files from a contact, a former accountant at Claudia's charity. Nia paced, her heels clicking, her mind racing. The accountant, Maya, met them in a shadowed diner, her hands trembling as she slid a USB drive across the table. Claudia's been laundering money, Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Your $50,000 was just a drop. She's hiding millions through fake donations. Nia's breath caught, her fists clenching. Millions, she hissed, her eyes blazing. Maya nodded, glancing over her shoulder. She used your money to plug a hole in a real estate deal tied to Owen's projects. Nia's stomach twisted, her teeth grinding. Owen hadn't just stolen her savings. He'd sold her out to Claudia's empire of lies. Vincent's hand grazed Nia's arm, steadying her. We need more, he said, his voice low, urgent. They dove into the USB's files, spreadsheets flashing on Vincent's screen, revealing a web of transfers linking Claudia's charity to offshore accounts. Nia's heart pounded, a war drum as she spotted her $50,000 buried in a transaction labeled consulting fee. Her fingers shook, pointing at the screen. That's mine, she spat, her voice venomous. Vincent's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. We've got her, he said, but his tone held a warning. Claudia's dangerous. She's watching you. Nia's pulse spiked, her mind flashing to a black SUV tailing her shop the night before. She shoved the fear down, her lips curling into a predator's grin. Let her watch. I'm coming for her. They met Maya again, this time at a safe house, where she handed over a ledger. Hard evidence of Claudia's fraud, with Nia's money as the cornerstone. Nia's hands trembled as she flipped through it, her breath ragged. Each page was a nail in Claudia's coffin, but also a risk. Maya's voice shook. If Claudia finds out, I'm done. Nia gripped her hand, her eyes fierce. You're not alone, she said, her voice steel. Vincent arranged for Maya's protection, his resources a shield, but Nia's resolve was the true weapon. She slipped the ledger into her bag, her fingers brushing the wedding invitation. Owen's public apology was her demand, but Claudia's downfall was her mission. The wedding was tomorrow and Nia's plan crystallized. She'd walk in, silver-white gown blazing, stepping from a Maybach convertible with Vincent at her side, the ledger her sword. Claudia's text to Owen, "Keep her quiet," echoed in Nia's mind, a taunt she'd turn into ruin. Vincent watched her, his eyes gleaming with pride. You're unstoppable, he said, his voice a spark. Nia's chest swelled, her fire unyielding. She wasn't just fighting for her money, she was dismantling an empire. The ledger burned in her bag, a ticking bomb ready to detonate at the wedding. You sold my life for your lies. Nia Okoro's voice exploded in Vincent Hargrove's Miami office, her hands slamming the ledger onto his desk, pages fluttering like a storm. Her sleek, straight hair whipped as she leaned forward, eyes blazing, her pulse a war drum. The ledger, stained with ink and betrayal, laid bare Claudia Brantley's scheme. Nia's $50,000 stolen by Owen wasn't just a cover for discrepancies. It was the cornerstone of a money-laundering empire. Vincent's jaw tightened, his fingers gripping the ledger, his eyes scanning rows of illicit transfers. This is bigger than we thought, he hissed, his voice sharp as a blade. Nia's chest heaved, her nails digging into her palms, blood beating. Claudia used my money to wash millions, she spat, her words venom. The ledger showed her $50,000 funneled into fake donations, masking funds for offshore accounts tied to Owen's real estate deals. But the truth cut deeper. Owen wasn't just a thief. He was Claudia's pawn, knowingly signing off on transfers to protect her empire. Nia's breath caught, her teeth grinding as she flipped to a page with Owen's signature, dated the day he left her. He knew, she whispered, her voice a raw wound. Vincent's hand shot out, steadying her arm. He betrayed you twice, he said, his tone steel, eyes fierce with resolve. They cross-referenced the ledger with Maya's USB files, uncovering a network of shell companies Claudia used to siphon millions, threatening Miami's charity community. Nia's heart pounded, her fingers trembling as she traced a line linking her money to a deal that built Owen's Bayside condos. Her idea, her legacy, stolen. They built their empire on my back, she snarled, her voice a whip. Vincent's eyes met hers, his nod firm. We'll end it. Nia's lips curled, a predator's grin, as she clutched the ledger, its weight a promise of ruin. The wedding was hours away, and this truth would be her weapon. She'd step from that Maybach convertible, silver-white gown blazing, and tear Claudia's world apart. Vincent dialed his lawyer, his voice urgent. Get this to the press, he ordered, his hand brushing Nia's, a spark of trust. Nia's resolve burned hotter, her eyes locked on the ledger. Claudia thought she was untouchable. Owen thought he'd buried her. They were wrong. The truth was a blade, and Nia was ready to wield it. You're a nobody who'll stay a nobody. Claudia Brantley's voice lashed out, her eyes glinting like knives as she cornered Nia Okoro in a shadowed hallway just off the glittering Miami wedding hall. Nia's silver-white gown shimmered, hugging her curves, its off-shoulder design and high slits screaming defiance, but her pulse hammered as Claudia's manicured nails jabbed the air. Nia's hand clutched the ledger, her knuckles whitening, the evidence of Claudia's money-laundering empire burning against her skin. She'd stepped from the Maybach convertible moments ago, arm in arm with Vincent Hargrove, her arrival silencing the crowd, Owen's stunned gaze locking on her. Now Claudia's sneer twisted, her voice venom. You think you can ruin me? She lunged, snatching at the ledger, but Nia jerked back, her heels scraping the floor, her jaw clenched tight. You used my money to build your lies, Nia spat, her words sharp as thorns. Claudia's laugh was cold, cutting Nia off. You're nothing but a flower girl. Her hand shot out, grabbing Nia's wrist, nails digging in, drawing blood. Nia's breath caught, pain searing, but her eyes blazed, unyielding. Let go, she hissed, her voice a whip. But Claudia tightened her grip, her face inches away. Give me that ledger, or you'll regret it. A shadow moved, a hired thug, his bulk looming, sent by Claudia to steal the evidence. Nia's heart pounded, a war drum, as the thug's hand grazed her bag. She yanked free, her elbow slamming into Claudia's chest, sending her stumbling. You're done, Nia snarled, her voice steel, but the thug lunged, pinning her against the wall, his breath hot. Nia's fingers clawed at her bag, protecting the ledger, her teeth grinding as she kicked, her heel connecting with his shin. He grunted, loosening his grip, but Claudia's voice sliced through. Take it, she barked, her eyes wild. Vincent's shout echoed from the hall. Nia! His footsteps thundering closer. Nia's chest heaved, her resolve ablade. She twisted, shoving the thug back, her nails raking his arm. The ledger stayed in her grip, her lifeline to justice. Claudia's face paled, her control slipping as Vincent burst in, his fist clenched, eyes fierce. Back off! He roared, pulling Nia behind him. The thug hesitated, Claudia's orders faltering. Nia's breath was ragged, her wrist bleeding, but her eyes burned with fire. She'd faced Claudia's claws and survived. The wedding hall's music pulsed beyond the door, the crowd oblivious. But Nia's fight was far from over. She clutched the ledger, her lips curling into a predator's grin. Claudia thought she'd break her, but Nia was forged in steel, ready to wield the truth like a sword. You can't stop me now! Nia Okoro's voice cut like a blade, her breath ragged as she stumbled into Vincent Hargrove's arms, the ledger still clutched tight against her silver-white gown, its high slit torn from the scuffle with Claudia's thug. Blood trickled from her wrist. Claudia's nail marks raw, but her eyes burned with fire, unyielding. The Miami wedding hall's music pulsed beyond the shadowed hallway, guests oblivious to the chaos. Vincent's jaw clenched, his fist balled as he scanned Nia for injuries, his voice low, urgent. We need to end this. Nia's chest heaved, her teeth grinding, but she nodded, her grip on the ledger iron. Claudia's going down, she hissed, her words venom. Vincent pulled her to a quiet corner, his phone already buzzing with a call from Maya, their whistleblower accountant. I found it, Maya whispered, her voice shaking. A recording, Claudia admitting everything. Nia's pulse hammered, a war drum, as Vincent patched Maya through on speaker. The recording crackled, Claudia's voice cold, smug. Owen's ex was easy to fleece. Her 50 grand covered our tracks perfectly. Nia's nails dug into her palm, blood beating anew, her heart pounding with rage. She used me, Nia snarled, her voice a whip. Vincent's eyes met hers, fierce with resolve. We've got her now. They raced to Vincent's laptop, parked in a private room off the hall, Nia's heels clicking, her torn gown trailing like a battle flag. Maya sent the audio file, and Vincent's tech contact decrypted a backup of Claudia's emails, revealing orders to funnel millions through fake charities, with Nia's $50,000 as the seed. Nia's hands shook, flipping through the ledger, matching entries to Claudia's emails. This ties her to Owen's condos, she said, her voice steel, pointing at a line labeled Bayside Cover. Her idea, her money stolen to build their empire. Vincent's fingers flew across the keyboard, copying the files to a secure drive. We'll broadcast this, he said, his tone sharp. Nia's lips curled, a predator's grin, as she slipped the drive into her purse next to the ledger. But danger lingered. Claudia's thug was still out there, his shadow lurking. Nia's breath caught as she spotted him through a window, his eyes scanning the crowd. She grabbed Vincent's arm, her nails digging in. He's watching, she whispered, her voice taut. Vincent's hand covered hers, steadying her. Stay close. They slipped back into the hall, blending with guests, Nia's gown shimmering despite the tear, her posture defiant. She caught Elise Davenport's eye, Owen's fiancé, her face pale with suspicion. Nia leaned in, her voice low. Your future's built on lies, she said, slipping Elise a note with one damning email printout. Elise's hands trembled, her eyes wide, but she nodded, a spark of alliance forming. Nia's heart raced, her resolve ablade. The recording, ledger, and emails were her arsenal, undeniable proof of Claudia's crimes. Vincent's lawyer was on standby, ready to leak to the press. Nia's fingers brushed the drive in her purse, her pulse a war cry. Claudia thought she'd silenced her. Owen thought he'd buried her. They were wrong. The wedding's climax loomed, and Nia was ready to step onto the stage, her truth a fire that would burn their world to ash. Your empire's built on my blood. Nia Okoro's voice thundered through the Miami wedding hall, her silver-white gown blazing under the chandeliers, its high slit and off-shoulder design screaming defiance. She stood at the center of the stage, ledger in one hand, USB drive in the other, her sleek hair a dark cascade, eyes burning like coals. The crowd froze, glasses clinking silent, as Owen Brantley's face drained of color, his bride Elise Davenport clutching her bouquet, trembling. Claudia Brantley lunged forward, her heels screeching, voice shrill. Lies, she's nothing. But Nia's hand shot up, silencing her, her jaw locked tight. You stole my 50 grand, Nia spat, her words slicing like knives. You laundered millions through your fake charity. She slammed the ledger onto the podium, pages fluttering, and Vincent Hargrove, at her side, plugged the USB into a projector. Claudia's recorded voice blared. Owen's ex was easy to fleece. Gasps erupted, cameras flashing, as Nia's nails dug into her palm, blood beating, her pulse a war drum. You used my money, my ideas to build Owen's condos, she snarled, pointing at Owen, whose knees buckled. Elise's eyes widened, her voice cracking. Is this true? Owen stammered. Nia, But Nia cut him off, her voice a whip. You signed the transfers. You sold me out. The screen flashed emails, Claudia's orders to hide millions, Nia's $50,000 the seat of their fraud. Claudia's face twisted, her scream piercing. Stop her! But Vincent's arms shielded Nia, his eyes fierce. It's over, he said, his voice steel. Reporters surged forward, phones recording, as guests whispered, their pity for Nia turning to awe. Elise ripped off her ring, hurling it at Owen. You're a liar, she cried, tears streaming. Nia's chest heaved, her lips curling into a predator's grin. She'd stepped from that Maybach convertible, Vincent at her side, and torn their world apart. Claudia's empire crumbled, Owen's facade shattered, and Nia stood tall, her truth a blade that cut through their lies. The crowd roared, their applause a tidal wave, as Nia's heart pounded, her victory sealed. You reaped what you sowed, Nia Okoro's voice rang out, sharp as a blade, as she stood outside the Miami courthouse, her sleek hair catching the flash of reporters' cameras. Claudia Brantley, hands cuffed, face twisted in fury, was led away by police, her charity empire in ruins after Nia's wedding expose. Nia's chest heaved, her jaw locked. The ledger and USB drive, proof of Claudia's money laundering, now in the hands of prosecutors. Owen Brantley, disgraced, shuffled behind, his suit rumpled, eyes hollow. Nia, I'm sorry, he stammered, his voice weak, but Nia's hand shot up, cutting him off. Save it, she snapped, her words venom. Her $50,000 stolen for their lies was ordered repaid, plus damages, by a judge who praised Nia's courage. Claudia's sneer faltered as cameras swarmed, her crime splashed across headlines. Miami charity fraud exposed. Owen's real estate deals collapsed. His Bayside condos, built on Nia's idea, ceased for investigation. Elise Davenport, now free of Owen, stood nearby, her nod to Nia a silent alliance. Nia's pulse hammered, her lips curling into a fierce grin. She'd torn their world apart, her truth a fire that burned through their deceit. Reporters surged, shouting questions, but Nia's eyes stayed fixed, unyielding. Justice is mine, she said, her voice steel as she turned away, her heels clicking. Claudia's empire was dust, Owen's arrogance ash, and every knot of their scheme unraveled. Nia's heart pounded, not with vengeance, but victory. The courthouse steps gleamed behind her, a stage for her triumph, and the world watched, awestruck. You can't erase what you stole, but I'm building something bigger. Nia Okoro's voice roared through the crowded Miami street, her hands gripping a ribbon, scissors poised to cut, as she stood before her new flower shop flagship, its glass doors gleaming with promise. Her sleek, straight hair framed her face, eyes blazing with triumph, her pulse a steady drum of hope. The crowd, locals, reporters, kids from her free flower arranging classes, cheered, their applause a tidal wave. Claudia Brantley's arrest and Owen Brantley's downfall, exposed by Nia's courage at the wedding, had returned her stolen $50,000 plus damages, but Nia wasn't stopping there. Her jaw clenched, her fingers steady. She snipped the ribbon, the crowd erupting as the doors swung open. Elise Davenport, Owen's ex-fiancée, stepped forward, her eyes bright, voice firm. "You deserve this," she said, handing Nia a contract. "I'm investing in your chain." Nia's chest swelled, her lips curling into a fierce grin. Elise, freed from Owen's lies, had redirected her family's wealth to fund Nia's dream, a chain of flower shops across Miami, each a beacon of beauty and community. Vincent Hargrove, at Nia's side, his hand brushing hers, added, "And I'm backing you too." His voice was steel, his eyes gleaming with pride. Nia's heart pounded, her nails digging into her palm, not from pain but purpose. She'd turned her betrayal into a legacy. The shop buzzed, filled with vibrant blooms Nia designed herself, her artistry drawing gasps. She announced a charity fund, seeded with her damages, to teach kids from Miami's poorest neighborhoods flower arranging, giving them skills and hope. "This is for them," Nia declared, her voice a whip, as kids from her classes beamed, clutching bouquets. Reporters scribbled, cameras flashing, as Nia's story, once a tale of betrayal, became Miami's anthem of resilience. Elise grabbed Nia's hand, her grip tight. "You changed me," she said, her voice raw. "I trusted a liar, but you showed me truth." Nia's eyes softened, a spark of alliance flaring. Vincent's lawyer nearby confirmed the fund's launch, ensuring Claudia's victims, including Maya, got restitution. Nia's breath caught, her pulse racing as she handed a rose to a young girl, whose smile mirrored her own. "You'll shine," Nia whispered, her voice steel and silk. The crowd roared again, their voices a chorus of hope as Nia stood tall, her shop a monument to her fight. Owen's theft, Claudia's empire, both ashes now, couldn't dim her fire. She'd built this with her hands, her heart, and Vincent and Elise's belief in her. Her fingers brushed the scissors, still warm, a symbol of cutting through lies. The kids danced around her, their laughter a shield against the past. Nia's heart swelled, her resolve a blade forged anew. This wasn't just a shop, it was a movement, a promise to Miami that beauty could rise from pain. Vincent's hand squeezed hers, his whisper fierce. "You're unstoppable." Nia's grin widened, her eyes locked on the future, a horizon blazing with possibility. "You can't break what's already whole." Nia Okoro's voice soared, her hands gripping a bouquet of lilies as she stood in her Miami flower shop, now a flagship for her thriving chain. Her sleek, straight hair framed her radiant face, eyes blazing with triumph, her pulse a steady drum of joy. The shop buzzed with laughter, kids from her charity classes weaving flowers into crowns, their giggles a shield against her past. Vincent Hargrove, her rock, slipped a ring onto her finger, his eyes fierce with love. "Marry me, Nia," he said, his voice steel, sparking cheers from the crowd. Friends, customers, and Elise Davenport, Owen's ex-fiancée, now Nia's ally. Nia's chest swelled, her lips curling into a fierce grin, as she nodded, her heart pounding. "Yes," she whispered, her voice silk and fire. The room erupted, petals scattering like confetti, as Nia's journey from betrayal to victory crystallized. Her shops dotted Miami, each a beacon of beauty, funded by Elise's investment and Vincent's faith. Her $50,000 restitution, the seed of a new empire. Her charity fund, teaching kids to arrange flowers, had sparked hope across the city, with Maya, the whistleblower, now its manager. Nia's jaw clenched, her fingers brushing the ring. Owen's betrayal, stealing her money, her dreams, a distant scar. She'd faced him one last time, weeks after his downfall, in a quiet park. "I forgive you," she'd said, her voice sharp, "but not for you, for me." Owen's eyes were hollow, his arrogance ash, as he nodded, muttering, "I lost everything." Nia's heels had clicked away, her spine straight, leaving him to his ruins. Now Elise stepped forward, her hand gripping Nia's. "You rebuilt me too," she said, her voice raw, eyes shining. Their friendship, forged in shared truth, was a bridge over Owen's lies. Nia handed a crown to a young girl, her smile mirroring the child's, her heart a war drum of purpose. "Keep creating," she told the kids, her words steel. The shop's shelves overflowed with her designs, each bloom a testament to her resilience. Reporters lingered, their cameras flashing, as Nia's story, once a tale of pain, became Miami's anthem. A local paper hailed her, from betrayal to bloom. Vincent's arm circled her waist, his whisper fierce. "You're my home." Nia's breath caught, her nails digging into her palm, not from pain but pride. She'd turned Claudia's fraud, Owen's theft, into a legacy of beauty and hope. The kids danced, their flower crowns glowing, as Nia's shop became a sanctuary, a symbol of what truth could build. She glanced at a photo on the wall, her grandmother, whose legacy Owen stole, smiling down. Nia's heart swelled, her resolve a blade forged in fire. She wasn't just whole, she was unstoppable. The crowd's cheers rose, a tidal wave, as Nia stood tall, her future blazing brighter than ever. Nia Okoro's fire burned through betrayal, her silver-white gown a beacon of triumph, her Maybach exit a slap to Owen's lies. She didn't just rise, she forged an empire from ashes, her flower shops a testament to resilience, her charity a lifeline for Miami's kids. Claudia's cuffs clinked, Owen's world crumbled, and Nia stood tall, her heart a war drum, her legacy unstoppable. Her journey from a stolen $50,000 to a chain of blooming dreams proves truth cuts deeper than deceit. What sparks did Nia's fight ignite in you? Did her defiance, her predator's grin, make your pulse race? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from and how her story hit you. Was it her courage, her refusal to break, that gripped you? Or the way she turned pain into power? Your voice fuels our community, so don't hold back. Share now. We're grateful for every second you spent with us, diving into this tale of grit and glory. Your support lights our fire, pushing us to bring more stories that shake your soul. Hit that subscribe button, join the fight for truth, and stay tuned for our next chapter. Nia's victory is yours too. Let's meet again soon, ready to conquer the next story.